Hello there everybody, Martin here from Affinity for Commander. Today we have two new players to the channel wishing to test their mettle, so without further ado, let's take a look at those opening hands.
I am playing my Arcades the Strategist Defender tribal deck, and keep an opening hand containing Shield Sphere, Fortified Rampart, Glacial Wall, Wildfield Scarecrow, Wall of Frost, a Plains, and an Island.
I am playing my Laelia the Blade Reforged Library Exiling deck, keeping a starting hand of Soul Ring, Fists of Flame, Mind Stone, Tavern Brawler, Hammer of Perforos, and 2 mountains.
Ryan is playing his Miirym Sentinel Worm Dragon tribal deck, and keeps a starting hand containing Heroic Intervention, Cultivate, Hammer of Perforos, Atarka World Render, Secluded Courtyard, a mountain, and a forest.
And finally, Will is playing his Kaalia of the Vast Demon tribal deck, keeping an opening hand made up of Kaalia Zenith Seeker, Dread Return, Demon of Wailing Agonies, Rakdos the Showstopper, a Plains, a Swamp, and a Mountain. I win the die roll and start things off by playing a Mountain. Not yet finished, I cast Soul Ring, closely followed by Mind Stone, and pass to Will.
Now that's an explosive start. Will also plays a mountain, and lacking a turn 1 play, passes.
Ryan plays a forest and casts Birds of Paradise. With nothing more to do, he ends his turn.
I start my turn by casting Shield Sphere and play an island before passing to Alex.
In my turn, I play a mountain and cast my commander, Laelia the Blade Reforged. Moving to combat, I attack Ryan with my Hasty Spirit, exiling a mountain with her trigger. I put a +1/+1 counter on Laelia, and Ryan declares no blocks. He takes 3 damage, and I pass the turn.
Will plays a swamp and ends his turn.
Not falling behind there, are we, Will? Ryan begins his turn by playing a mountain, and taps all of his mana producers to cast Cultivate. He searches his library for 2 islands, puts one into play tapped, and the other into his hand, before passing to Martin.
In my turn, I play a Plains, and cast Fortified Rampart. Unable to attack with my defender, I pass the turn.
I move straight to combat, once again attacking Ryan with my commander. I exile another mountain with her ability, put a +1/+1 counter on her, and Ryan takes 4 damage. In my post-combat main phase, I play the mountain that Laelia exiled, and cast Pyromancer's Goggles. Happy with my play, I end my turn.
Will starts his turn by playing a Plains and taps out to cast Commander's Sphere. Still lacking a 1-drop, he passes to Ryan.
Ryan plays Training Center as his land for turn, and casts Hammer of Perforos.
Stop! Hammer time!
With 2 mana open, he passes the turn.
I play a Plains and cast Wildfield Scarecrow.
Oh, bad burn shard, got you.
Unable to do anything else, I end my turn.
In my turn, I play a mountain, and move to combat. Here I mix things up a bit, and attack Martin with Laelia, and exile the top card of my library. I put a +1/+1 counter on my creature, and Martin blocks with his Rampart. Before damage, I cast Fists of Flame, copying the spell, given that I tap my goggles to cast it. I draw 2 cards, and Laelia gets +5/+0 and trample until the end of turn. This raises her power to 11, trampling through Martin's wall to deal him 5 damage.
I am so glad I blocked that.
In my second main phase, I cast Endless Atlas, and cast the Commander Sphere that I exiled earlier in the turn. Pleased with my position in the game, I pass to Will.
Will begins his turn by casting his commander, Kaalia of the Vast. Lacking any land to play, he passes.
Ryan plays Game Trail, and casts his commander, Miirym Sentinel Worm. He decides not to attack, keeping the dragon back as a blocker, and ends his turn.
I sacrifice my Scarecrow to his own ability, searching my library for 2 forests and put them both into my hand. I then play one of these forests as my land for turn, and cast Wall of Roots before passing to Alex. Alex responds to this by drawing a card of his Endless Atlas, and proceeds to his turn.
I start my turn by drawing a card with my Atlas, and move to combat. Here I attack Will with Laelia, exiling a card from the top of my library, and putting a 4th +1/+1 counter on her. Will declares no blocks, taking the 6 damage, and I move to my post-combat main phase. Here I play a mountain, and cast Reckless Endeavour, copying the spell with Pyromancer's Goggles.
Did I ever mention how much I despise that card?
Only at every single opportunity. I rolled 2 d12s, getting an 11 and a 1, and choose to deal 11 damage to each creature. This wipes the board of all living things, and I create a single treasure token. With the spell's copy resolved, I rolled 2 more d12s, this time getting a 7 and an 8. This time I create 8 treasures and deal 7 damage to absolutely nothing.
There's no kill like overkill.
Next, I use 3 treasures to cast Tavern Brawler, and use 5 more mana to help recast my commander. As the only player still in possession of a creature, I pass the turn.
In his turn, Will plays a swamp and casts the other version of his commander, Kaalia, Zenith Seeker. He looks at the top 6 cards of his library, putting the Master of Cruelties from among them into his hand, and ends his turn.
Ryan plays Secluded Courtyard, naming Dragon, and passes to Martin.
In my turn, I play Azorius Guildgate and cast my commander, Arcades the Strategist. Out of mana, I pass the turn.
I begin my turn by exiling a land from the top of my library with Tavern Brawler, and put a +1/+1 counter on my commander. Next, I activate Endless Atlas, drawing a card, and then cast Tormenting Voice. I use Pyromancer's Goggles to help pay for the sorcery, discarding a card, drawing 2 new cards, and 2 more cards from the spell's copy.
Not bad for 2 mana.
Moving to combat, I attack Will with Laelia, exiling another card from my library. I put another +1/+1 counter on my spirit, and will respond to this by casting Terminate. Laelia is destroyed, and I proceed to my second main phase. Here I play a mountain as my land for turn, recast Laelia, and discard down to 7 before ending my turn.
Will plays Seer Step Pathway and taps all of his lands to recast Kaalia of the Vast.
Oh great, now there's 2 of them.
Moving to combat, Will attacks Alex with his 3 mana Kaalia, dealing him 3 damage. With nothing more to do, he passes to Ryan.
Ryan starts his turn by playing an island, and casts Niv-Mizzet Parun. With 1 remaining mana, he passes the turn.
In my turn, I play Temple of the False God and cast Hover Barrier. Arcades triggers, drawing me a card, and I then cast Glacial Wall.
Look at the little puppy.
Moving to combat, I attack Alex with my commander, given that he is the only player lacking a flying blocker. He takes the 3 damage, and I end my turn.
I exile the ancient copper dragon from the top of my library, granting my commander +6/+0 until the end of turn.
Oh my.
I put a +1/+1 counter on Laelia, and play a mountain as my land for turn. Next, I cast the aforementioned dragon, and tap my goggles to cast Expedite. I copy the spell, giving my ancient cowboy double haste, and draw 2 cards. And Ryan draws as well, thanks to Niv-Mizzet. Ryan deals 1 damage to my commander with his Parent's ability, and I then move to combat. Here I attack Will with my commander and Ryan with my dragon. Laelia's ability triggers, exiling a mountain from the top of my library and putting a +1/+1 counter on her. Will then blocks Laelia with his 3 mana Kaalia, and Ryan declares no blocks. The cleric is obliterated, Ryan takes 6 and I roll a d20. I get a nat 20, generating me 20 treasure tokens, and move to my post-combat main phase. Here I cast Abbot of Kerrol Keep, exiling the top card of my library as it enters the battlefield, and putting a +1/+1 counter on my commander. I reveal the exile card be Relentless Assault, which I cast, triggering Niv-Mizzet's ability. Ryan draws and deals 1 damage to my Abbot with his Prowess trigger on the stack. This destroys him before his +1/+1 buff occurs, and Relentless Assault resolves, untapping all of my creatures.
We're in trouble.
Moving to my second combat step, I attack Will with Laelia, exiling yet another card from my library. I put a 4th counter on the spirit, and Will declares no blocks, taking 12 damage.
Now that's living dangerously.
Moving to my third main phase, I cast Burnished Heart, closely followed by the Faithless Looting that I just exiled. Ryan draws, dealing 1 damage to me, then I draw 2, discard 2, and pass to Will.
Will begins his turn by moving straight to combat, attacking Alex with his commander. Kaalia's ability triggers, and Will puts Rakdos the Showstopper onto the battlefield from his hand. He has the demon enter a tapped and attacking Alex, and Will flips a bunch of coins to decide which creatures live or die. Near Visit, Hover Barrier and Ancient Copper Dragon are destroyed in this way, and now unable to block the flyers coming his way, Alex takes 8 damage. In his second main phase, Will taps his Commander's Sphere for white and sacrifices it to draw a card. He then uses this mana alongside all but one of his lands to cast Demon of Wailing Agonies and passes.
Ryan plays Path of Ancestry and casts Kodama's Reach.
I guess it's better ramping late than never.
He searches his library for a mountain and an island, putting the former into play tapped and the latter into his hand. Unable to cast anything else, Ryan ends his turn.
In my turn, I play a forest and cast Cavern Caryatid. I draw a card from Arcades, another card from the Caryatid themselves, and move to combat. Here I attack Alex with Arcades and my Wolfy Wall, and Alex blocks the non-flyer with Burnished Heart. Before damage, Alex sacrifices the elk to their own ability, putting 2 mountains into play from his library. He takes 3 damage from my commander, and I move to my post-combat main phase. Here I cast Wall of Frost, drawing another card, and pass to Alex. Alex responds to this by drawing a card of his Endless Atlas, and then proceeds to his turn.
I start my turn by exiling a mountain with Tavern Brawler, putting a +1/+1 counter on my commander as I do so. Next, I cast Morog, Fury of Akom, and play the land I exiled with my enchantment, triggering my Minotaur's Landfall ability. Moving to combat, I make a bit of a misplay, believing that my regular combat occurs before my extra combat, which in actual fact it does not.
Whoopsie.
Luckily this doesn't change much, as I could easily have just performed my actions in a different order, so nothing would have changed in the long run. Anyway, I attack Ryan with Laelia, exiling the top card of my library and putting another counter on her. Controlling no creatures to block with, Ryan takes 9, thanks to the buff Morog provides, and I move to my second combat step. I once again attack Ryan with my Spirit Lady, exiling another card, put another counter on Laelia, and deal Ryan lethal commander damage. In my post-combat main phase, I cast Chandra's Ignition, targeting Laelia in this way. She deals 8 damage to each other creature, Will and Martin, completely wiping everyone else's board. Will chooses to put his commander into the graveyard, and pretty pleased with my turn, I pass.
In his turn, Will casts Dread Return, targeting Rakdos the Showstopper. The Guildmaster returns to the battlefield, and Will flips a coin to determine whether Laelia is destroyed by the Demon's ETB. Unfortunately for Will and I, Laelia survives this game of chance, and the rather disappointed Will ends his turn.
Martin plays an island and recasts his commander. Next he casts Wall of Blossoms, drawing 2 cards when the plant enters the battlefield. Martin then passes to me, to which I respond by drawing with my Atlas. With no further interruptions, I proceed to my turn.
Alex exiles the top card of his library, puts a +1/+1 counter on Laelia, and casts the Basilisk Collar that he just exiled.
If only I'd had that before I cast Chandra's Ignition.
He equips the collar to his commander, draws a card of Endless Atlas, and sacrifices his commander sphere to draw once more. Still not finished, Alex sacrifices his Mind Stone to draw a 4th card, and then moves to combat. He attacks Will with Laelia, and I respond to her triggered ability by casting Rapid Hybridization. In response to this, Alex flashes in Dualcaster Mage, copying the spell and targeting Arcades with his version. My commander is destroyed, replaced by a 3/3 Frog Lizard, and Laelia is also destroyed before Alex can get any life from her attack.
Gee, thanks for that.
Alex is gifted with a 3/3 Frog Lizard as compensation for his loss, and Laelia's trigger then resolves. Alex exiles the top card of his library, plays a mountain, and uses a buttload of treasure to recast Laelia.
Can't keep a good ghost down.
With nothing more to do, Alex scores down to 7 and passes.
Will begins his turn by playing Sevilla Triome and taps all of his land to cast Master of Cruelties. Moving to combat, he attacks me with Rakdos, dealing me 6 damage, and ends his turn.
In my turn, I cast Austere Command, choosing to destroy all artifacts and enchantments in play. Alex lets out a small squeaking noise and puts the majority of his board into the graveyard.
Rude.
Not yet finished, I cast Overgrown Battlement, and deeply satisfied with my actions, pass to Alex.
I cast Outpost Siege, choosing cards, followed by Vance's Blasting Cannons.
Will you stop playing enchantments after I've just used my mass removal spell?
No. Still grieving the loss of my glorious board state, I pass the turn.
Will starts his turn by playing Evolving Wilds, immediately sacrificing it to put a Plains into play tapped from his library. Next he casts Smothering Tithe, yet another enchantment I wish had been in play a turn earlier, and moves to combat. Here Will once again attacks Alex with Rakdos, dealing him 6 damage, and ends his turn.
Martin draws, allowing Will to create a treasure token with his Tithe, and plays Opal Palace. Next he recasts Arcadius the Strategist, and moves to combat. Martin attacks me with Wall of Blossoms and his Beast, and I block with my Mage and Beast respectively. Both Beasts and my Wizard are destroyed, and Martin moves to his second main phase. Here he casts Shield Wall Sentinel, drawing a card, and searches his library for Wall of Denial. Martin puts the wall into his hand and passes to me.
Alex exiles the top 2 cards of his library thanks to the combined effects of his enchantments, puts 2 +1/+1 counters on Laelia, and draws for turn. He decides not to pay the Smothering Tithe tax, creating Will a treasure token, and casts the Drakuseth Maw of Flames that he had in exile. Next Alex casts Hammer of Perforos, giving his dragon haste, and moves to combat. Here he attacks Will with Laelia, and me with Drakuseth, triggering both creatures' abilities. Alex exiles the top card of his library, putting a +1/+1 counter on his commander, and then assigns targets for his dragon's ability. He deals 4 damage to Master of Cruelties, 3 to Shield Wall Sentinel, and 3 to my face, and I declare no blockers. Combat then occurs with Will taking lethal combat damage, I take 7, and Alex ends his turn.
Martin plays a Plains and casts Laelia, God of the Hunt. He then moves to combat, attacking me with all of his creatures that are able to do so. Before damage occurs, Martin flashes in Stone Skin, giving his Wall of Blossoms +10 toughness, therefore dealing me +10 damage. This completely messes up my survival plans, dealing me lethal damage and leaving Martin as the victor.
Well, that is it for another game. I hope that you enjoyed watching me sneak in and steal victory from under Alex's nose. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank each and every one of our incredible patrons, without whom we'd be unable to continue making content such as this. Also, be sure to check out our affiliate links in the video description. It won't cost you anything extra to purchase your products through these, but it really helps out the channel. And finally, don't forget that you can help to support us in 4 quick and easy ways: liking this video, subscribing, hitting that bell icon, and leaving us a comment. I read every one. Well, that's it for now guys, we'll see you next time. Stay awesome!